All right, good evening and welcome to the Coach Jones Show. I'm Sammy Hendricks for Charlton Sportsnet, along with Adam Bell, head coach Mario Jones, and Charlton County Sheriff Robert Phillips. Coach, welcome to the show. Glad for joining us. Sheriff, welcome. Thanks for joining us. Coach Jones?
First and foremost, want to thank the sheriff for coming today to join us to give our community and everyone watching an important update concerning this inclement weather we've been getting. So, Sheriff, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you. I appreciate being here. I just want to give you an update. The storm has moved further south. It's intensified somewhat down there, so we need to still be in prayer for Central and South Florida folks as it moves in tonight and hits them. In Charlton County tonight through midday tomorrow, we're looking for about 35 to 40 mile-an-hour gusts, not sustained winds, and maybe 2 to 3 inches of rain at the most. That's what they're showing now. So we're in good shape here, and by 6 o'clock Thursday afternoon, it should have moved across out of our area and across Florida. Friday will be clear, and by game time Friday night, the skies will be great, and folks need to think about making that trip to Ocilla. Let's play some Indian football.
About as good as news we can get.
Okay. As far as road closures or anything, I guess all that'll be notified on your Facebook page, right?
Right. Everything's open right now. And there's no other weather problems over that way. Everything's south of us. So we should be fine. And if anything changes with road closures, of course, I'll post it and let Coach Jones and the school system know right away.
Do you know how the fuel situation is down in Folkestone? It seems like both hurricanes, communities to the north came last week, communities to the south are coming this week for fuel. How's the fuel situation here in Folkestone?
It's good. Surprisingly, traffic has been pretty much normal today. The evacuation appears to be on 75 and 95. We've monitored traffic since yesterday afternoon. A little bit of increase, but not a lot of folks coming through like we thought it would be.
All right. Sheriff, I appreciate it. Sammy, Coach, y'all got anything more for the sheriff before we
No, I probably share the same sentiment a lot of folks do. I appreciate all the updates. I know I can always call the sheriff. He's always readily available and tells me any and everything that he knows. I feel like we're all, doing the same thing and in the same boat. We're in service to, our community in different ways. And so, Sheriff, I thank you. I appreciate you. You've been nothing but A1 to us, and so we appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate being here.
Sheriff, thank you very much for coming. I know it was a quick one, but I enjoyed having you on the air and giving us that official update.
All right.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks,
appreciate
sir.
it. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll hit the Coach Jones Show.
Thanks, sir.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
In your time of need, give Rob Robertson a call at 912-496-7388. Shepherd Robertson Funeral Home says go Indians.
Allen Aldridge Insurance, located in Kingsland, Georgia, is proud to serve the communities of Charlton and Camden counties, offering life, home, car, and business insurance. See Andy Gowan today for your insurance needs. Phone 912-729-7600 for more information. Protecting you is what we do. Gowan Aldridge Insurance is a proud sponsor of the Charlton Sports Network.
All right, welcome back to the Coach Jones Show. Coach, man, it's been a crazy 2.5, 3 weeks with a bunch of bad weather and some just horrible devastation to our community and communities that are joining us. It's been crazy for us fans, I know, and I can only imagine how it's been for you guys and the players. How's it kind of been for the last 2.5 weeks since the Lanier County game?
The best way, Sammy, to describe it is, there's no playbook, for this. There's no manual of how to handle this. And obviously the first thing that I think about, with this storm is, how it affects people. We live in this community, my family and I do. We do have family, south of us in Jacksonville where we're from, but we live in this community. So we were without power for an extended amount of time. And, it was, just difficult. But then when you start hearing all of the stories and seeing the pictures of the devastation. Look, for a better part of my adult life, I lived in Valdosta, and I still have, really close friends that don't have power. Some that homes are if not destroyed, in really, really bad shape. And so you start counting your blessings. So we've had to adjust things with practice. Our kids have had to be flexible in what we do on a daily basis, but it pales in comparison to the devastation that the storm has caused so many people. And then seems like when you get past it and the sun starts shining a little bit, here we are dealing with another one. So.
Right. Well, first of all, our thoughts and prayers go out to all the victims from Hurricane Helene, and anybody that's going to be have to be dealt with during this hurricane coming to us now. So I know you and all the, especially the region coaches, as far as I know, on the most part, I know you guys have a little bit of a close relationship. How's the communication been between you guys on if we're going to play, when we're going to play, and things like that?
I think that's what's different about nowadays. We were in this first part of this new schedule with the GHSA concerning the playoffs, and the playoffs kind of being an extra off week, kind of being out of the question. And then if you make it so far in the playoffs, everyone gets an off week. And so it's been different. I think everybody has kind of talked to the team that they were currently playing. I know we were getting ready to play Lanier. Coach Dean at Lanier, who coached me in college at VSU, we were in communication as early as Monday. And Sam, if you want to talk about if you just that kind of fan and you're into the every little detail of travel and all that kind of stuff, Monday we woke up the week that we were supposed to play Lanier that Friday, and in school, Coach Dean calls me. We talk a scenario through of having to maybe move the game back to Saturday, and then Sammy the very next day, probably about the same time in the day, Coach calls me and says, "Hey, what do you think about us playing tomorrow on Wednesday?" And so for about an hour and a half, life was super hectic, trying to get transportation and food and everybody that has anything to do with our travel and going over, trying to get them. And then really what people would probably think the most important part, getting it all communicated to our coaches about what we were doing. And so it was just a really hectic time. I think the way the game played out with the weather and, just as sloppy of a game it was, a lot of it went into, stuff that had gone on, throughout the short week with trying to make plans. And then here's the most important thing. Once the game's over, you got to go back home. Well, who knows what kind of home they're going back to. And so it was just, it was, when we told the kids we were playing Wednesday, they actually got excited. I think they were excited because it was like, okay, good, we're at least going to get to play this week. We're in region play. Our kids know how important region football is. And so, it's just been a really, really odd time. But kids are resilient. They kind of go with the flow. It's us adults who kind of get, beside ourselves with the details, which is what we're supposed to do when we're in positions of leadership. But it's been a roller coaster, Sammy. I don't know any other way to describe it. I hate roller coasters. In real life, I hate them.
Oh, yeah.
But this has really, really, really been one.
Well, just to kind of hit on that a little bit more, for the last two and a half weeks, you look at it, the Lanier County game is supposed to be on Friday night. We had to play it on Wednesday. Then you get about a week and a half break. The hurricane comes through. The Clinch County game gets canceled because of the devastation over in Homerville. And then you got another storm coming in this week. How do you – Lanier County game's over with, and you got, almost 2-week break there. How do you keep the kids focused? How do you keep them focused on what – the game number one's over. We got to win. How do you keep them focused on the next game?
Well, again, kids, we give them we worry so much about what they're going to think. And this, when I say resilient, you tell them, hey, there were a lot. Our kids were disappointed we didn't get to play Clinch County last week. But on the same token, that we live in this day and age with technology. They knew, from seeing pictures and hearing stories of how bad, the devastation has been all across. So it wasn't like they were necessarily, just up in arms about it. And then we actually had, and shout out to Mr. Jeff Doggett, who kind of organized a group that went over and helped, donate some food and service some people over in Homerville and the Clinch County community. So, we're just disappointed we didn't get to play because, we live for Friday nights, right? But keep it in perspective, the human nature aspect of it. There are people still who don't have power, who don't have water, who, I'm Facebook friends with a lot of coaches around the state. I follow, Coach Mike Coe over in Coffee County, and shout out to him and what his program's been able to do. But I know just the other day, watching another coach post about, them having hot water, and hey, and if any of you guys need to come take a shower, my heart goes out to him. In that community, I have family that lives in Douglas, but it's an emotional thing for me. As much as I love kids, I can only imagine what coaches and families and just folks who live in small communities like the one we live in, who are going through this stuff. And it seems like maybe help's never on the way. I remember watching a bunch of people in Valdosta post about, hey, please don't forget about us, or hey, we're going through this and we're going through that. And that's the community I lived in and loved and thought I'd be in forever, right? And so my heart just goes out. But to see kids continue to come back and battle like ours have, to come to practice and try to focus on not knowing whether they were going to play a game. And it took our coordinators telling me last week, I was so worried. Once me and Coach Dickerson got together, the GHSA handed down and extended the regular season 1 week. So once we knew that game got moved to the 8th, our coaches were like, okay, hey, we can start preparing for Irwin, but it's in the middle of the week. We've already, kind of invested a couple of days in the clinch, and so, I kind of made the decision that, hey, we got an additional off week that we didn't ask for.
Right.
And so what's crazy, Sammy, is we're going to play Irwin Friday, and then we're off again next week.
That's right, yep.
And I say off from not playing a game, but we've got to go practice again, and then obviously we'll play, 3 straight to finish the year. But it's been, and I say weird. Weird's probably not the best way to describe it. It's just an odd set of events that have happened. And so you just got to be willing to go along with the adversity and try to handle it as best you can. The best way I can describe it is there is no manual that tells you what to do or how to handle this. One thing I can say, we have continued to feed and nourish our kids, that, our Fuel in the Tribe program. We've continued to have, parents here to help support. The Glover brothers has continued for, as much as I know the Maidens, our softball team has continued to play. I've seen our Band of Pride out there practicing. Cheerleaders have been practicing. Kids are awesome. They're amazing. They're willing to go back out there and get to work. And so I'm excited to have on Friday some sense of normalcy, although, it sounds like with the sheriff, there may be an interruption in our day tomorrow. And so we're going to go in the morning as best as we can, and then, gear up to go over and play our best on Friday.
Well, let's go into some football play here real quick. We'll go back just briefly on the Lanier County game. Get over there, man. The skies look like they fixing to open up any minute now. We were surprised we was able to get the game in. We set our tent up in the bleachers, expecting to take it down any minute from the rain. Weather let us play the game. Sloppy, wet, nasty playing conditions. Indians, Lanier gets the ball first. Indians stop them. We get the ball. We drive down the field. And we score. We take an early lead. After that, like the defense continued to play great. Offense stalled. Lanier County was able to take a lead in the halftime, and then nothing doing throughout the third and almost complete fourth quarter. The Indians are able to score with a little over a minute to go in the game to take the win. These kids, I think these kids, and I know I did when I play football, I always like playing in the rain. But it's just hard, and, we had trouble with some snaps sometimes on the opposite side of the ball. The kids, they hung in there, battled back, and showed a lot of grit and come back and won the game. Yeah,
so, when I got here and I watched film, especially the previous season, and we've even discussed it, a few times of, we were in a bunch of games last year. Last year's team was in a bunch of games, and then maybe found a way to either give it away or drop it there at the end. Last week was so significant. It was a regional football game, and I don't care what, people say. You look at folks traditionally. Lanier County came back and beat us last year after we were up, I believe, 21-0 here at home. And so, last week was so significant for our program as we move forward, because we went up 8-0, and then we gave Lanier County 2 turnovers down there where it's like you just walk in.
Right.
And so that's what's disappointing. And then for the rest of the game, Sam, I don't know if you guys could feel it up there where you are, but for the rest of the game, just the spirit and energy on our sideline was so dead. It was almost if like, oh my God, it's raining. You know, we had a couple of injuries during the game. And it was just like, God, this ain't the way it's supposed to end. And I will tell you, one of the things that I will always remember as a coach about all the teams I've coached with, about this individual team, is we went down to the 2-yard line and didn't get in.
Right.
And then we come back and stop them on 4th down. And then we've got to drive the length of the field to score. Then we have the issue with the clock.
Yeah.
that you know, I mean, it is what it is. And officials come over and they're doing the best job they can in explaining what's going on. And so we're having to try to score to win the game, first region game, and then we're having to every few seconds ask what the play clock is and what the game clock is. And so on that 4th down play, for us to go in the end zone and score and then come and, you know, David Walters there at the end intercept the ball to end the game. And I remember hearing you say it I always go back and watch the TV copy the next day, and you saying, you know, just go down. And so that's one of those situations. Talk to David, I'm going to go score, right? But David, at this point, the way this game's going, just get down,
Right.
man. But just really proud of him. But our program needed a win like that, where the spirit and the energy, and it's crazy. Sammy, you've been around Charlton County football so long. Adam's been around it so long. You guys remember those glory days. Our kids, for their age, are so far removed from that and experiencing that. So that one was like kind of the start of what I hope is something that keeps propelling us forward of when you're down in a game and you got a tight game like that, even if you go blow for blow, you're not out of it. You got to keep fighting it. And I was so proud of us for just continuing to keep battle. That is what I took out of that entire game, being sloppy, being played on a Wednesday, us traveling over at the last minute. The Band of Pride came, the cheerleaders came. We had a good crowd. I thought a better crowd than what they had for homecoming.
We did.
And it was amazing the way you know the end of the game finished.
And you know, me and Adam kind of talking about it among ourselves about picking a player of the game, and besides the defense and the great job that they done, my player of the game last week was the big block by Elijah Bryant out on the corner that allowed Wilson to score. If he don't make that block, I don't think he scores. So he made a great block on the corner to allow him to get into the end zone and game-winning touchdown.
Yeah, I've joked with Elijah about it. You know, Elijah is going to be a really, really good player here before it's all said and done. If you look at Elijah walk in the door, you say, good gracious, you know. But I'm again, we had, you know, if you look at who we have on the field, we've got some freshmen right now who are taking some lumps but are starting to gain more confidence on offense and defense that are playing really significant snaps for us. But us as a whole, for us to go that last drive, and I'll just continue to say it, you could have just popped the air out of the balloon when we went down to the 2-yard line and then didn't score. To come back that next possession and kind of switch things up and go down the field and convert, you know, a few times big 3rd down conversions, couldn't have scripted it any better. So when I think about the totality of the game, yes, the credit goes to our kids, but if I could give a game ball, man, I'd give one to you all. I'd give one to the Band of Pride, to the cheerleaders, to everybody for weathering the storm. Only, in my opinion, only in the state of Georgia, specifically South Georgia, can you get a community to band together. And I'm talking about the school, the band, the cheerleaders, you know, the transportation folks, the folks who feed us, you know, you all to get on the road with such short notice and come over and support. That is amazing, man. Everybody gets one.
Right. Okay. So let's go ahead and move into this week's game. Irwin comes in, or we go to Irwin, 6-0, 1-0 in the region. Indians go in at 4-2 and 1-0 in the region. Irwin's coming off a kind of a back-and-forth win against Turner County. Scored a lot of points. Gave up a good bit, too. What do you expect to see out of Irwin this Friday night?
So they're going to try to score in droves. I mean, you look at them this year, other than the game against Fitzgerald, they've scored 50 a couple times, 60 once, and, 40 a couple times, right? So every Friday night kind of has its own story. For us this week, our kids, primarily what they do on offense is wing tee. They're a little different, in my opinion, defensively this year, because they've got some they've got probably as big as of defensive tackles, as you'll see in our region. And that's a little different to say because, they're big and they move extremely well. And then Brooks will have, guys that look right around what a, defensive lineman will look like, but that can just run like gazelles. And so, again, this is – everybody knows that Brooks and Irwin are back in this region. This is truly the region of doom. You're going to see it as well coached of an Irwin County team as you had. Coach Soliday, when I was over at Turner, was at Irwin. Always has really good players, always does a really good job, just a solid group. And again, the reason why you love being at a place like Charlton County is because you're going to be able to play the best. And these are the games that I'll say now that, for all the young kids that we have playing, these are the games that I just got done telling our crew in this very room that you got to play in and you got to go through in order to get to where we want to be. And so, we're going to go over and put our best foot forward with the hand that we've been dealt with everything, because they've had to do it too. I know they had some school closures and whatnot. And so, we're going to go and do our best, Sammy.
Okay. One last thing, Coach. Did y'all have the quarterback club meeting last night?
Yes, there was a group here. I think it kind of, Mr. Hewlin was here. He's been so, and I'm going to say this about Mr. Brian Hewlin, he's been so supportive of this nutrition program, and Miss Nancy and Miss Katie Ruth Hewlin that is kind of taking this on, and different families that are coming in. So, last night was a scheduled quarterback club meeting, but it was just as good, in my opinion, as it's been, to watch the different families come in and love and feed our kids and just interact with our kids. And it's last night was no special than probably any other night's been. It's just been really cool watching everybody come together to feed and love on our kids after practice.
Anything special that the fans need to know as far as ticket-wise going to Irwin Friday night?
Yeah, so as far as security is concerned, there's a clear bag policy. So you got to have a clear bag. They will not let you in under any circumstance enter without anything other than a clear bag. Everybody will go through metal detectors to enter the game. And then the tickets are $10, and they can be purchased either at the gate, cash, or through GoFan. Okay. So,
all right. You got anything?
Coach, there we go. I wanted to ask you about that last drive. I know you guys just talked about it, but with the additional stress of their scoreboard being down and the clock and all of that, how are you able to communicate that with the officials and at the same time get those plays calls in so fast? I mean, that had to have been additional stress with that clock.
Yeah. So earlier in the game, we're looking at the play clock, and the numbers were skipping from 20 to 16 to 12, and it wasn't actual real time going, so they were skipping down. And it's just hard because if you look and it says 25 and then the next thing it says 20 and there's only a second or two that's passed, something's wrong. So I actually said something earlier in the game, and the official said that they would watch it. And so when the clock malfunction happened, if you saw, the referee went over to their sideline and talked to Coach Dean and their staff, and then he came over to our sideline, and then he kind of gets ready to go away. And I'm like, hey, you remember earlier in the game I said that clock was skipping, so, can we keep the play clock down on the field too and not just the game clock? Because now I'm worried that because the play clock, I don't believe there was two play clocks. There was the one back there on the scoreboard, and then there wasn't another one back there behind the goalpost. So my concern, not only for the game clock, because it is what it is, if they got to keep the game clock on the field, then you just got to keep asking. But that play clock's so important because we utilize ours at practice to make sure that, we try not to be close to having a delay. That's why anytime that we have to burn a timeout because we hadn't got it in, it's like, gosh, we practiced it. It's this situation at practice. We shouldn't screw this up. So just it was a weird
situation.
Game, but I'm glad we got through it.
Yeah. I know Sammy and I noticed it, I guess, around the 2:38 mark, and the clock didn't move, and then it, like you said, it skipped 30, 40 seconds. Then they put 30, 40 seconds back on it. I mean, it was wild.
It was. Glad we came out on the good end of it. Yeah.
Irwin County coming up this week. Road Warriors got to be on the road. Middle Georgia's still all messed up, so would definitely recommend everybody getting gas here, I
Yeah.
would think.
Yeah.
I know I went through Waycross the other day. They're sort of back up. So if you
Yeah,
don't know, everybody should gas up here.
Yeah, I would think that, with the sheriff, with his update, as many folks as we probably have migrating up north, who knows, if we probably got a bunch of high school football fans coming up. I know if we were playing at home, I'd want to do something to help give some sort of relief. I thought it was really, really cool of Valdosta High School. They were playing Camden this Saturday. They gave free admission for everybody.
Yeah, I was amazed by that
Saw that.
myself.
Yeah.
And I know that they probably lost out on a lot of money, but you know what? In situations like that, because all of that money goes back to those kids in the form of going back to the athletic department, I thought it was a really cool gesture of them to give the community something, at least for those few hours. I know I follow Councilwoman Vivian Cody over in Valdosta, who was always, very near and dear to me when I was over there. She was actually cutting her yard and helping, I believe, some neighbors in her neighborhood, and says her husband told her to come on and I'm going to take you to the game just to get away from all of this for just those few hours. And so I thought that was really neat. And then I'm a VSU alum. I love my Blazers. I didn't even know that Valdosta State the football team had bused up to Middle Georgia State College, I believe it is, and had spent the week and was working out of that area, and then went and played up at Shorter and had a big win, GSC win. There's just so many people being affected by this in so many ways. So if all that's happening to us is some lost power and, we never lost water, but, maybe being without internet connection for a few days and then having to alter our schedule, I'm thankful, because we could be much, much worse. And, one of the things that just has my attention right now is listening to the sheriff talk about how bad it's going to be down in Central and South Florida. I've got a cousin and her family, a couple of cousins that live in the Orlando area. My mom's hometown is Fort Pierce, Florida. It's right in the heart of the Treasure Coast down in South Florida. Got an aunt that lives down in Boca Raton that just retired, and I'm thinking about my family in Orlando, Fort Pierce, and Boca, and just everyone down in that area. I grew up in a large part in that area, and so I'm thinking about my grandmother's home, and it just has me concerned just because we went through I believe it ended up being a Category 3 hurricane, and this
Right.
one's a Category 5 hurricane. So I can only imagine. So my thoughts and prayers are with everyone, but to all my family out there. My family usually watches this live, so to all my family, my uncles, my aunts, my cousins that are watching, that are down in those areas, we love you. We're thinking about everybody, and just hoping everybody comes out of this thing safe.
I wonder if I could pick your brain about something that's come up with the GHSA down the road, possibly a couple of years from now. They're considering moving teams up and down based on win-losses instead of school size. What's your thought on that?
I don't know.
That's what everybody does.
Yeah, I don't know enough about it yet. I know it's supposed to be for competitive balance. I think what you would see is some really interesting regions. If you're a football fan and you want to see a knockdown drag out, I think the higher the classification, the better off you're going to be. But then I think there has to be something. So if I've got any opinion about it right now, for a school our size that has a little over 400 students, just because we've been competitive in football and baseball, and we've had some recent success in basketball. I'm just talking. I don't know that this would do that, but if that propels us to Class 3A and not Single A, I think in being in there with whoever you may be in, I don't know that that's what that would be. So I think when they put the publication out about what they were considering, it probably should have came with a little bit more information. I understand the premise behind it. Florida right now has kind of moved their model to hopefully have some competitive balance. So I know the premise behind it in Florida was there was the same state champions every year. So people were like, hey, bump those teams up, and so we have some new folks winning and make things a little bit more competitive. I don't know that they've got the perfect formula, because most of the coaches don't even know what the formula it is that they use to rank teams, you know, in order of power ranking. Georgia, I think, does a great job because you can see the formula online of what it is and calculate it yourself. So, Adam, to the long answer to your question is I think it's going to be very interesting what happens here, in the next year.
You know, if I can ask something to that real quick, you talking about if they're going to go by competitiveness, well, then Region 1 D2 shouldn't be touched because I don't know if it gets any more competitive than what our region is.
Yeah, I think if you're talking about that, one of the things I had to kind of be reminded, just floating this around with coaches that I know around the state, it's not just going to be football. So if you've been competitive all across your sports, then chances of you moving up substantially. Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, I don't think you'll see Irwin and Brooks go up to region with Valdosta and Camden, and I don't think it's going to do that. But I think what you're going to see is you're going to see some of these teams that traditionally win, like forever. You know, Camden was in the region with the Savannah schools. Mm-hmm. Yep. And I think that probably had a little bit more to do with isolation than anything because of where they were in the state. But I think what you'll see is you'll see regions with teams who probably won multiple region championships or played deep within the playoffs. It's going to be interesting to see, you know, when you stop using numbers and when you start using wins and losses. You know, if you're a team that's been scheduling, you know, been great at scheduling folks you could have 9 and 10 wins a year, and you're probably going to be in trouble based on, you know, what we've at least read. But I would say stay tuned to see what they put out about what it's going to look like.
2026 is definitely going to be an interesting off year, isn't it?
It will be.
It will be. Sammy, got anything else?
Nope, Coach. Charlton and Irwin Friday night over in Ocilla.
Yeah, the Battle of the Indians. Yep. Appreciate it. Go try it.
You good, Coach?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank y'all for watching the Coach Jones Show. We'll see y'all Friday night live from Irwin County. We actually got permission to stream that thing, so we'll be on YouTube Friday night, 7:30. Have a great weekend, or a great week, everybody.
Thank you.